Good afternoon, Augie, and thank you so much for joining me and giving us your time. It has been quite an amazing 2020, and as we enter 2021, I'm excited to speak with you. One of the areas that has been really intriguing us is as we look at enterprises of tomorrow. We realize that possibly there will be a fundamental change and difference from what we have seen yesterday. How they do business, the kind of people they hire, the way we work, both individually and collectively, and some of those trends. We are keen to sort of understand perspectives of individuals who have seen it from different vantage points. And given your experience at your current place of work at IBM, looking after employee relations and looking at future of work, but more importantly, looking at your exposure that you've had to industry with some of your involvement in public policy with the associations that you're involved with. I am very excited to spend the next few minutes to get your perspective on some key questions that we've been sort of debating. Um, so thank you again for your time.
Most welcome, Prithvi, and I'm truly delighted to be here, Prithvi. And my best wishes to KPI Soft and all the great work that you are doing. And of course, it's great to be back among friends and to share knowledge on a platform that could enhance the way we do our work in this HR function. So thanks again, and I wish you all a very, very happy new year too.
Thank you. So let me kick off with the first thought. There's been a lot of discussion about the next normal, the new normal, and how the world has changed. And while a lot of that it relates to challenges that we have faced in the last 12 months or will continue in the future, I wanted to look at this a little positively and ask you, what do you think tomorrow holds in terms of your industry or your enterprise or your network and professionally that you are engaged with? What do you see in terms of opportunities for those people, those companies that you have sort of interacted with, and your industry as a whole?
Yep. Thank you, Prithvi. Now, totally agree with all the disruption that is happening, and that has also spawned a lot of innovation, and a lot of businesses are doing well. Of course, some sectors aren't. But what we are seeing today, okay, is one is the race for the COVID vaccine. Is akin to putting man on the moon, right? Because so much of data, so much of research, so much of involvement from the people, the governments, the enterprises around them, and world bodies have come together. So with this amalgamation, what I see is a purpose-driven work culture. Now, what is purpose-driven work? Let's take, for example, if I am a coder in Java and I am very concerned about the environment, especially I want clean air. And therefore, I'm thinking, how can my coding in Java bring about clean air? So I dig a little bit deeper into my purpose, and then I go and join this airline company. And airlines, being large polluters, we know, also have a commitment to provide clean air. And therefore, they have this project for this young man to be coding in Java to reduce their carbon emissions and therefore lower their carbon footprint. So now what happens for this young man is that he's highly engaged. Now his purpose resonates with the values of himself, and it very clearly aligns with the objective of the business. So, which means that he collaborates a lot with environmental bodies, with businesses, with government, and not just in coding. So you see, from a single stack, like we would say, you go multi-stack, all
Mm,
right? And the employee of the future is going to be just that. He will do a rip and read to get his knowledge up to that level that that project requires of him, and then he or she is going to move on to the next thing, which is going to be more passionate and more exciting, where they can go and implement these new skills that they have found. And the new
Mm.
worker very clearly is going to be those gig platform workers, where you're going to have very high levels of productivity and engagements that is undergirded by passion. So, in a nutshell, you have learning, you have skills, you have mindfulness, and you also have the CSR component. Thank you.
No, it's very good point. This business of how do you bring what the individual aspiration is, the community aspiration is, and in that find the good to do the good. Um, just a corollary to that. So when you talked about a purpose-led organization, I assume that the people who are best placed to articulate that and take that to the individual or the employee is really the manager or the first line supervisor. um, are there any practices that you have seen which have worked in actually making that better for managers to do so, so that they are actually articulating the meaning in the work that people are doing, or is it really left to the individual to look at his own leadership style and sort of build that capability? Or have you seen any organizational practices put in place which have enabled that articulation of purpose better and meaning better to people as they look for it?
Absolutely, Prithvi. We could look at two things. One is we are reinventing the workplace in real time. The workplace of the future is no more that. It is present. It's happening in real time as we speak. And the challenges or even capabilities of that is driven by the duty of care of an employer. Okay.
Mm,
Now, what does that happen now? Let's not ignore the elephant in the room, which is the pandemic. So, what happened during the pandemic and what did our frontline managers do? Okay. One is that we were all trained for the perfect storm, be it skills, be it competencies, be it whatever it is, knowledge. Okay. And then the perfect storm happened. It hit us so hard, but unfortunately, we were not on one boat. We were riding the storm in our separate boats. And those separate boats, brought to fore those instincts, the muscle memory, as well as the skills that were imparted, be it adaptability, be it risk taking, or innovation, or being futuristic. Do I have the right sails for this wind? Those kind of things happened. That learning happened in the storm. Okay. Well, theoretically it happened in the classroom, but you typically had it in the storm, because the storm also brought out a unique guest into your home, the office. So
mm,
now that you had the new guest into your home, it wasn't about work life balance, but it was about work life integration. So what happened is that one is the managers, the frontline workforce took the plunge. They saw the winds coming, and then they said, "Okay, first what we do is we go and seek. After you seek, you explore or experiment, and then you deliver." So it's about seeking, exploring, and delivering.
mm. So, so clearly, you are now looking for managers as they go through this process. I loved what you said about the need for care, or the culture of care, or the purpose of demonstrating care for a manager. And as he seeks, explores, and delivers, the kinds of decisions or the kinds of talent issues that he is dealing with have clearly become much more complex, possibly looking back and making decisions by looking at precedents, etc., possibly may be passe and may not be relevant anymore. So I'm sure managers and leaders are starting to look much more for insights around new decisions so that they can make the best decisions in this new context. I also hear, we've been talking about how our profession or our business leaders are investing more and more around analytics and evidence led sort of support for managers. How has that evolved in some of the organizations that you're visible, that you have visibility to, how are they using analytics to help people make the best decisions in this environment?
Yep. So, if not for data analytics, I'm sure we would still be battling the storm, or we could have gone down under. Okay. So, first thing, there is a loud whoop to data analytics that just happened for us, right, in the last few years. But look at it from a HR technology standpoint. Now, HR tech was, HRMS, payroll, recruitment, compliance, benefits, goals, so on and so forth. But now what happens is HR tech is meeting work tech, because what HR tech is doing is influencing the entire enterprise. And therefore, they are bringing in a lot of other things that is merging with HR tech. So, in the future, you will have wellness, career, lifestyle, health, video, conferencing, chat, docs, chatbots, learning opportunities, pay, and all of them moving as work tech. So that transition is what we are seeing now. Take for example learning. What is learning? How is learning happening today? One is, it's a personalized platform today that enables an employee to do continuous learning. And then once an employee does those continuous learning, this thought comes in your mind that skills is the new currency. So to me, or to an employee, let's say, if skills is the new currency, how do I encash my currency? That brings us to another interesting point, that while these platforms are there to help learn, using data, AI, and deep learning systems, to tell you that, look, this is the next job for you. This is the skills that you have. This is the value that you will have 1 year from now in terms of compensation, and so on and so forth. But the need for mentors and coaches has not been seen as much.
Mm,
So the career is no more in the hands of that manager or the employee. It's now with the employee. And therefore, organizations could even cash out the learning costs to the employee, and the employee in turn goes and invests that, and then he encashes it as the skills currency. That's
mm.
how I see it going. And end of the day, I think once people have that freedom to do what they want, they are more engaged. They are driven to work alongside the organization's goals and objectives. Thank you.
No, you've actually, pressed a very hot button for me. I believe as well that, we have been looking at a lot of the functions in managing people very much in silos. So we've talked about career management, we talk about performance management, we talk about learning management, we talk about rewards and engagement, as very still very distinct. While when you look at how employees live life, when they go out into the into at home, they don't look at, eating differently or sleeping differently. That is all part of their experience that they have at home, or the, what whether it's the drawing room or the living room or the storeroom or the kitchen there. That's all considered a home, a single home, and a single experience. But at work, when the HR looks at it, we tend to look at our disciplines very distinctly. So I think this piece that you talked about, work tech, as to how people are going to look for technology which actually helps them look at their entire experience across the way they manage work, the way they manage their skills, the way they manage their learning, the way they manage their safety of the workplace, especially given the elephant in the room, as you called it, with the pandemic. I think those are going to become critical elements of how we look at your technology strategy going forward. But let's just focus on maybe the piece you talked about, career and learning, which is what we look at as, enterprises of tomorrow will have to invest in the growth of their workforce. How have you used technology, or how do you think, what are some of the best practices you've seen in using technology to actually drive career and learning management decisions best for employees? What are some of the things that you've seen happen? We keep hearing that there's been a significant rise in the way people complete online courses, and the ed tech space has seen a huge uptake. Have you seen any similar practices around how careers and learning are being managed better using technology?
Yeah, exactly, Prithvi. So the first thing is we are seeing a great uptick in learning completion, and people earning certifications and badges, and then going on social media and saying, hey, here's the badge I have got, so recognition is so important to this, right? So now that they know that they are relevant to the workforce, how do they go about it is when you provide them a personalized platform that enables continuous learning, and,
Mm,
and therefore as they are working on the project, the learning goes hand in hand. It's continuous to them, all right? Because as they learn, they discover something, or as they are in the project, they are faced with a big problem, the learning comes just in time, they
mm,
are they are triggered when they are stuck to go back into that learning and say, hey, let me figure the solution out. Because this is that thing I told you about, being in your own boat in the storm. I don't have to reach out to the next cubicle and ask. I can't. Okay. So that is the scenario that we are handling. And once you have this personalized platform for continuous learning, you have what you call, you evolve, using crowdsourcing, using deep analytics and things like that, a global talent model, that tells you, okay, here are my demands, from the old school of needs assessment. Okay.
mm,
But except that here it is very much integrated to how the client is going at this, because today what has happened is the client came and told us, hey, we need your AI, we need your cloud, we need all these kind of things, right? It wasn't a push from this side as much as it is as far as a demand went from the client side. So therefore your buyer is very clearly dictating what your skills competencies should be, which in turn the platform is able to get and drive what I would call a talent model. And that
mm.
talent model, there are a lot of stakeholders in this. There's the frontline manager, there is the client, there is the employee, there is HR, and so many other people. But unless you deploy data and AI deeply, you're not going to have an effective platform. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Augie. Last question. If you had, I think what you've talked about, how uh, there is a need for a change. What I take away is really there's a change. There's a change not just in the mechanics of how the experience or the is delivered, but even the mindset, especially given the hybrid workforce or the distributed workplace that we are now starting to deal with, I think has implications on all the areas of focus, whether it is performance, whether it is productivity, whether it is proficiencies, whether it's the employee passion of how they think about their employer. I think those differences in a mindset that you referenced many, and mechanics that you referenced many, have impact on all these outcomes that we as leaders are uh, paid to deliver or to influence. So if there was one piece of advice that you had for leaders as they sort of look to create an enterprise of tomorrow, what would that one piece of advice be that you would leave them be when they view this recording of ours?
Okay, great. I would tell that leader to first look at the duty of care as well as the sentiment analytics as far as employees go, because the disruption just didn't happen, for all of us across the world. It happened in families also, right? With multi-generational workforce and things like that, all within the same room. Okay, so therefore, in the mind of that employee, there are those things, those sensitivities. For example, I'm not video ready now, so don't expect me to be there on camera. Okay.
Mm,
So we'll have to respect that. We have to be sensitive to those things. Or there could be this event, where when I am on an important video call speaking to a large audience, that's when Amazon decides to deliver that parcel. And this guy keeps calling me incessantly on my phone. So there are moments like this with this work life integration that disrupts our daily lives too. We've planned, but somehow that plan goes awry,
sorry.
We just throw up our hands and look above. So, in a nutshell, I think for the leader of tomorrow, I say seek, explore, deliver. Three words: seek, explore, deliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Augie. I think you have helped us seek the right answers, explore possible insights that we didn't have, and now the responsibility is on us and our partners and clients to actually deliver together what we hopefully will see a very meaningful, work experience for people as they sort of integrate in the new ways of working. So, thank you so much again for taking the time and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much. All the best. Take care. Have a great
Thank
year
you.
ahead. Bye bye.
Thanks, Augie.